This is Mako Sports, and I'm doing my first NBA video. So, the Minnesota Timberwolves pick Anthony Edwards because they're pretty set on the point guard and center, and they're probably going to go for a best position fit. He would be a great add to their scoring, and he can work better on his defense, and they can eventually move over Jarrett Culver to small forward, Anthony Edwards the shooting guard, and pick up a power forward later in the draft, free agent. And the Warriors take James Wiseman, and they take James Wiseman because he is a great player, and he's a great fit for the Warriors. He is really the only weakness they have, because they have Curry, they have Clay, they have Wiggins, and Draymond Green, and James Wiseman. Unless they trade this pick, James Wiseman would be the best possible pick. And LaMelo Ball is a very talented player, and anybody can really take him. He's just the best player in the draft. But the other two teams had a better position need, and Charlotte takes him for the best available player, so they can get a star player and build around him. And now we have the Chicago Bulls picking Deni Avdija. I think that's how you say it, from Israel. And their really only weakness is small forward and power forward. He's big enough to play power forward, and Lauri Markkanen is probably not going to stay that long, so he would be good in a starting lineup with Kobe White at point guard, Zach LaVine at shooting guard, Deni at small forward or power forward, or this season he would be small forward, and Lauri Markkanen at power forward, Wendell at center, and it'll be a great team. And now we're going to go to Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin goes to the Cavaliers because Colin Sexton is getting better, but Obi Toppin is an established player who can take over for Kevin Love or be that wing they need. And he can be really a great player. So Obi Toppin is the best player in college basketball last season. So I have the Cavs taking him for a player who can develop and be a solid player. Next, I have Isaac Okoro, a good defensive player, and the Hawks really need a good defensive guard because Trae Young is lacking on the defense, and he can really carry that. And John Collins is out, so you could say they get a small forward or power forward, but the next great power forward, small forward is in number 10. And number 6, they get Isaac Okoro, a great shooting guard, and can really develop to be his offense, and he can be a great player. Like maybe Kawhi at his best, but I doubt it. He'll be a great defensive player and offensive player. And now we're going to go into Tyler Hailbort, who is an all-around best player, and not best player like he's the GOAT, but he's the most balanced player. He's good at everything. And the Pistons should take him. He's a 6'5" point guard. He'll be their starting point guard, and Sekou Doumbouya and Christian Wood would be their small forward and power forward for the future, and Blake Griffin's contract would run out, and Tyrese Hailbort would be their player of the future, hopefully, and be a great player overall. Patrick Williams will be going to the New York Knicks in my mock draft because RJ Barrett is a very good defensive player, and Patrick Williams is a great offensive player who is getting better at his defense, and he can really do a lot, especially when the Knicks are a good defensive team, but offense is lacking. They can really do a lot, and they're going to depend on drafting a lot of good young players because James Dolan is not going to recruit any free agents at all. I had the Wizards taking Onyeka Okongwu because he is a good center. He's 6'9", very versatile, like Bam. And they're really going to have to get a player breakout soon. I'm going to rebuild mode with Bradley Beal. And John Wall's contract's not going to get traded unless they get Russell Westbrook. And nothing much you can do. except draft a young player and try to add him in for instant impact. That's Onyeka Okungwu can do that. Or he can be a great young player who can develop. Now I have Precious Ochiwa. And he is a great power forward, especially when the Suns are only lacking in power forward. He could have gone a little longer, but the Suns are going for a position need because of Chris Paul trade. DeAndre Ayton's good at center. Shooting guard is Devin Booker. And their small forward or power forward is Cam Johnson. And you put in Precious. He's a good player. You put him in that position need. Great. And San Antonio Spurs are going to select Killian Hayes because he is a good player, a great player. He fell down in the rankings a little bit in my mock draft because of the other position needs and best players overall. And I think the Spurs taking him because they're in rebuild mode and they really need a good player. You can say DeJounte Murray. For a position, they don't need him, but they can move him over to shooting guard, and I don't think anybody thinks he's going to be the point guard of the future. So I put Killian Hayes there, who can develop to be a good young player. The Kings taking Devin Vassell, a great defensive player who's showing promise and developing fast in his shooting. He's a shooting guard, and I think that the Kings will be trading Buddy Hield and picking up a younger player to find a good match for the Aaron Fox, and trying to get a little bit younger with Buddy Hield 26 and De'Aaron Fox becoming 22 soon. So they get younger and they get a player who can be better or the same as Buddy Hield. And I get Tyrese Maxey, who is a great player. He is a versatile two-way combo guard. He's amazing. And I have the Pelicans taking him because their only real weakness is shooting guard because they have Zion, Brandon Ingram, Jackson Hayes. You can say Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but I think he'd be a solid role player. And Lonzo Ball is a good playmaker for their point guard. So a two-way combo guard for Tyrese Maxey, great player. And then R.J. Hampton, I have going to the Celtics. And he's a creating combo guard. So he can create a lot of good shots. And it's just what the Celtics need. They need a good backup point guard who can create shots and run the offense after Kemba Walker steps off the field. And finally, for 15, after the lottery, I have Aaron Nesmith. And he is from Vanderbilt. And I'm going to the Magic. He's a versatile shooting wing. And he was the best player available and a small forward. So he was a good player overall. And I think that they can replace Evan Fournier, who has a $17 million contract, with a younger player who can develop and soon, in a year, will be better than him and will be great. Now we have Kira Lewis Jr., an Alabama sophomore, going to the Rockets. I picked this because he's a good player and he can go either ways. Either if the Rockets want to trade Westbrook and Harden and rebuild, he can be a great player to start off the rebuild. And he can create. He's a good shooter. And he's a speedy guard who can go to the rim. And he's a dynamic shot creator too. So he's a great player. Even if they don't decide to rebuild, he can play the bench really good. And we have Sadiq Bey from the Timberwolves. He fits that power forward role, creating a good starting lineup with D'Lo, Anthony Edwards, Jarrett Culver, Sadiq Bey, and Cat. And they really need a power forward, and he's a great defensive power forward, so he can help the Timberwolves, who are bad at defense, and help them get a little bit better. And then I have Cole Anthony going to the Mavericks. either being a backup point guard or moving him up the starting lineup and Luka over to shooting guard as a starter, as a ball handler. And Cole Anthony would be a great playmaker off the field when Luka gets off, and he can develop and be a great player. And I have the Nets taking Aleksej Pokusevich. Hopefully you can see it on the side. He should be number 19. I butchered that name probably a lot. He's a 7-foot playmaking power forward. He can play starter or bench. Everything, really. And I picked this because the Nets are not that good at power forward. And he can shoot, so he can be a 3-and-D if you want. And can create some shots by himself when KD and Kyrie get off. Now I have the Heat, which is my team, picking Jalen Smith, a great 3-and-D guard who has a lot of upside, and he's a shot-blocking, floor-spacing big who can come in for Bam and really do a lot, or become a starting small forward or power forward. I have the 76ers picking Josh Green, a great 3-and-D guard who can become a starter and play a great 3-and-D role, or play defense or play the bench, depending on whoever they want to put in for Matisse Thybulle or Josh Richards, really anybody. And the Nuggets take Jaden McDaniels, a good power forward. He can come off the bench, do a lot, and many scouts call him a two-way forward. He is a defensive, versatile player. He has good shooting ability, a really great player overall. It can help the depth of the power forward grow a lot. And picked up 23 is Theo Maledon, a point guard who it can shoot and create. He's a secondary creator and a 3-and-D guard, whatever the Jazz need. And because Donovan Mitchell will probably be the number one shot creator, so he would be a great second option, especially when Mike Conley leaves after this season. Leonardo Balmaro, I put him as a prospect because if they can learn how to shoot better, how to play defense better, he can be a great player. And he's a 6'7" guard and point guard, so he'd be an oversized guard who can be a star if the Pelicans can develop him. And I have the OKC Thunder picking up Nico Mannion because they lost Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder, one of their best point guards. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a shooting guard, so I just put Nico Mannion, a young point guard who can play make and do a lot. And for 26, I put Robert Woodard II going to the Celtics. He's a great 3-and-D guard and can really help the Celtics with floor spacing and a good bench depth because they played a lot of their starters during the playoffs and can really help them a lot. I have the New York Knicks taking Isaiah Stewart at pick 27, who is a great big. He's a tough and physical big. He can play good and be a great backup center for when Mitchell Robinson has to go out on the bench. He's strong and he can really play good defense and be that guy who can come in and play great. And I have the Oklahoma City Thunder picking Tyler Bay, a power forward. And this is because they really lacked at the power forward. And that was really one of the positions they needed to draft. And he is a versatile defender, Tyler Bay. And can help lock down players as a role player. And really be good. And then I have Toronto Raptors take Trey Jones, who is a great playmaker. He's a floor general, unselfish team playing an impactful defender. So he's great as a bench player, or the Toronto Raptors can develop him over this past year and be a great starter. and Xavier Tillman, who is great with star shot creators like Kemba Walker and can be a good bench player so they can help their starters. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And like this if you want to see more NBA content.